Are you super interested in buying an Airbnb as an investment property, but feel a little bit terrified of the idea of investing out of state and having to manage your property remotely?
We know the feeling, but we've overcome that fear, and now our best performing Airbnb is 2,183 miles away from our house. So you might be wondering, Tony, Sarah, how do you manage your Airbnb from over 2,000 miles away? Well, in today's video, we're going to answer that question for you guys and give you kind of a behind the scenes peek into how we run our business.
If you've been around our channel for a while, then you're most likely interested in buying your first Airbnb investment property, which is great.
No, that's what we're here for,
Yes.
is to help you guys. But we get messages and comments on videos all the time where people tell us that they'd love to jump in and buy that first Airbnb, but they have this fear inside of them of buying and managing an Airbnb from a long distance, right? It's just holding them back from getting started. So we want to break down how we manage our properties remotely. So all of our subscribers, all of you watching and listening, feel more confident, feel more comfortable to buy that first Airbnb investment, even if it's 2,000 miles away from where you live.
You can do it, I promise. So we've got 3 main strategies that make remotely managing your Airbnb relatively easy.
Strategy number 1 is visitation. Now, throughout this video, we're going to show you that it's very much possible to manage an Airbnb without seeing it in person every single day. But just because your Airbnb isn't in your backyard, that doesn't mean that you should never plan to visit it.
We try to visit our out-of-state properties a couple times a year. And while we're at the property, we're really looking for opportunities to make our guests' stay a little bit more enjoyable or other little ways to improve the property. We'll usually end our trip with a small punch list of items that we'll pass on to our handyman and our cleaner. And it could be small things like ordering more silverware or labeling the TV remote, or bigger things like deep cleaning the baseboards and making repairs to the property.
No matter how amazing your cleaning team is and your handyman are, there's always a chance that they might overlook things that you as the owner might want to know and might want to get fixed. So being able to see your property in person will always be a good way to spot those things and get them fixed for your guest.
Strategy number 2 is building a reliable team. Now, we talk about the importance of our team all the time, and this is honestly the most important strategy, because even if you get the other steps right, not having the right team is the fastest way to derail your business.
Now, our team consists of 2 main players. It's our cleaner and our handyman. People often ask us, how do you clean your property in Tennessee when you live in California, right? And the truth is, we don't clean any of our properties ourselves, even the ones that are close to home in California. We hire that job out to professional cleaners.
Whenever a guest checks out, our cleaner heads over and preps the property for the next guest. So it's 0 physical work on our end as a property owners to get the property ready for the next guests.
One question you might be thinking is, well, how do you know if the property's being cleaned correctly if you're not there?
Valid question.
Yeah, valid question. And the honest answer is we know this based on the feedback we get from our guests.
If our guest checks in and they tell us that our house wasn't properly cleaned, then we know that our cleaner missed something. And if that happens often enough, then it's a big red flag and you need to find a new cleaner.
This actually happened to us in Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
We started to receive a string of complaints from guests across multiple properties about cleanliness. And we'd bring it up to our cleaner and they'd apologize and tell us that it wouldn't happen again, but it happened again, and again, and again.
And again.
And so eventually we had to let that cleaner go. Not the fun part of the business, but it's something you have to do to protect your business, right? Now, we also created an entire video on how to find and interview your cleaner, so you can check that. We'll link to it here on the video somewhere.
And the next team member is your handyman. One thing you can absolutely, positively count on as an Airbnb host is that guests are going to break things.
So guests break all kinds of things, right? Things you wouldn't even think they would want to break. We have a small bear statue at one of our cabins, and I think it was the first guest to check in, right? They broke the ear off of the bear and they moved it from where it was to some other part of the house. It's like, why are you moving the bear statue? What?
They actually moved several of the bear statues, so it's really weird.
So things are going to break. Broken pool sticks, broken windows, broken beds.
Yeah. Broken cast iron skillets.
How that happens?
They must have thrown it, I don't know. But things are going to break and you want a go-to person who has a little bit of knowledge in multiple trades like electrical, plumbing, and general repairs that can come and be a lifesaver when those moments happen.
A handyman is going to save you money most of the time over a specialized trade person like a plumber or an electrician. And honestly, there's probably varying skill levels for handyman, right? Like our handyman in Joshua Tree that fixes our leaky sinks is the same person we use when we're rehabbing an entire property, right? Like that's his skill set. Our handyman in the Smoky Mountains is super reliable, but there are times when we have to call more specialized trade people to get work done because it's outside of his skill set. So depending on who you find, that'll kind of dictate how often you need to call a plumber or an electrician or an HVAC person to fix some of your problems.
Finding a good handyman can be tricky, but I'd recommend to start your search by asking other Airbnb hosts if they're willing to share their contacts. Otherwise, it's going to take some trial and error to find the right person that fits you.
We went through a couple of people in both markets before finding the right person for us, right? And just quick backstory, like it was super happenstance how we found our handyman in Joshua Tree. Our internet was being installed at the property and our partner was just like chopping it up with the internet guy who works for this internet company. And somehow the guy mentioned that his dad is a handyman and we ended up using him for a job, and it started this very long and like perfect relationship with that guy. So, you know, if you're out there, just talk to people, tell them what you're up to, and you never know who they might be able to connect you with.
So your cleaner and your handyman are super critical because they're typically the people to address emergency needs of the guests. So if there's a problem that comes up and requires someone to actually go to the property to fix it, we'll typically reach out to our team and ask if they're available. Most of the time, they're able to handle any issues that pop up, and we just pay them for their time.
Now, the best part is that our cleaner and our handyman, they often work as a team, right? In both markets that we invest in, our cleaners and our handymen communicate directly with each other when there's an issue. So like as our cleaner is going through the property, they're cleaning, they're getting the property prepped, and say that they see something that needs to be fixed, right? They'll usually just reach out directly to our handyman and then just loop us in afterwards and say, hey, just so you know, there was, you know, the sink was leaking, so I sent the handyman over and he got it fixed for us and he'll send you a bill later. And perfect, right? Like that's less work.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, less work on our end, and it's just a really productive system. So if you can find a handyman and a cleaner that know each other, that's a great way to kind of take some of the burden off of you.
And if they don't know each other, make sure you introduce the two people, and that way they can start that line of communication when those situations arise.
Yeah. Actually, another pro tip, right? Like say that you found a cleaner, but you don't have a handyman, ask your cleaner because there's a good chance they know somebody, and vice versa. Say that you know like a general contractor or handyman or somebody in that market, and say it's like a big vacation rental market, they might know a cleaner as well if they're servicing multiple properties. So relationships.
But before we keep moving, we'd really appreciate if you guys could give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications. We're still a relatively new channel, and every new subscriber really does mean a lot to us. So if you're enjoying the content, please hit subscribe.
Also connect with us on Instagram. I'm at Tony J. Robinson and my lovely wife is at Sara Rad. We've also got a totally free download for all of our subscribers. If you head over to alphageekcapital.com/calculator, we put together a free tool that helps you analyze properties that you're considering purchasing as a short-term rental, let you know whether it's a good deal or a bad deal. If you're not yet an Airbnb host, which is crazy if you're watching all these videos, you know.
Do it, what are you waiting for?
You can sign up using the link in our description. You'll get a small cash bonus for signing up. We'll also get a little cash bonus for referring you guys, so we would appreciate it.
And last, follow us on TikTok. I'm a TikTok queen. I want to follow you guys back at the Real Estate Robinsons.
All right, strategy number 3 is to automate your business. We leverage several different tools to keep our business running on somewhat autopilot. I think it's hard to get it all the way on autopilot, but somewhat autopilot, right? And a few of those tools specifically allow us to manage our properties remotely. Now, the first tool that we use is a keyless entry system. We use the Slage OnCode keyless entry pad, and we'll put a link to that in the description so you guys can check it out. But the Slage OnCode is great because it allows your guests to get into and out of the property using a keypad as opposed to having to fumble around with the physical key. And it also allows you as the host, as the owner of the property, to remotely control who has access. Yeah. So we have one code for our guests, and then we have a different code for our cleaners, so we can see at all times who's using the keypad to gain access to the property. And we can also unlock and lock the door from an iPhone app. So there's a bunch of benefits to having the keyless entry system.
And in addition to the keyless entry pad, we also have a Ring camera installed at the front of every property. So this allows us to view the exterior of the property at any time. And there's just a certain level of comfort, I feel like, personally, that comes from being able to see your property. One of the other questions you might have been thinking about is, how do we communicate with our cleaners and let them know what days each property needs to be cleaned? Great question. Luckily, there's a software solution for that too. So we use Smart B&B to notify our cleaners and keep them up to date on each property's calendar.
Our cleaners get a text message every time that there's a new booking or a change to an existing booking. And then they also have access to a calendar within the Smart B&B app that shows them an updated picture, like, real time of all of our bookings, so they can see when guests are checking in and when guests are checking out. So those are the tools that we use to kind of take the stress out of managing remotely.
All right, and strategy number 4 is managing your inventory. So as the owners of a short-term rental, not only do you have to pay your cleaners to clean the property after every guest checks out, but you also want to make sure that your property is fully stocked with all of the supplies that you include in your listing. Now, since we don't live close enough to drop off supplies to our property, we had to figure out a way to manage this. So here's our process.
As we start to run low, the cleaners let us know. They're like, hey, you're running low on toilet paper. And we'll place an order for this item. And usually we'll have it shipped directly to our cleaner's house. And then they'll take those items with them to the property the next time that they're cleaning it. So super simple for everybody, right? They get it shipped to their doorstep, they throw it in their car and then drive it over. So simple and straightforward.
And we follow a similar process with our handyman. So if something's broken, we'll order it and have it shipped to his house, and then he'll take it with him to the property and have it fixed or set up.
So there you have it. That's the process for being able to manage your Airbnbs remotely. And hopefully this breakdown was thorough. And after hearing it, you all feel maybe a little bit more confident, comfortable, willing to manage your Airbnbs remotely as well.
I promise we were also really scared. That's a scary thought, to have a business that you can't physically be at and do things at, but we're living proof that you can do it too.
I actually wasn't that scared. She was scared.
Yeah, that's true. But that's it for today, guys. I'm Sarah.
I'm Tony.
And we are the Real Estate Robinsons.